How many games the Arizona State Sun Devils going to win to finish out this frustrating 2022 season? Let's talk about it on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
Are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. My name is Richie Bradshaw and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen of the day. Remember, you can get this podcast free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, if you want to check us out in a visual platform. Of course, wherever you do get your podcast, hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications to get an update every time we post new content. To stay in touch with all that content, make sure you're following me on Twitter. You can find me at RichieBrads36. You can find the podcast for you there as well at LO_Sun Devils. But before we get started, this episode of Locked On Sun Devils is brought to you by our good friends over at LinkedIn. I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. There are 5 games left until the horrific year that has been the 2022 season for Arizona State Sun Devils will finally come to an end. We're 2-5. There was a point in time where we were 1-0, and we were so full of joy and hope, believing that maybe we could do something. And instead, you dropped 4 straight games, somehow got a win in a game you weren't supposed to win, and you're right back to where you were after losing to Stanford 15-14. I now look at the remaining gauntlet here. There are 5 games remaining, 2 home games, 3 away games, and it will alternate to end the year. Away, home, away, home, away will be the way that this season ends for Arizona State. So we're going to take a look at these final 5 games. We're going to talk about the odds of Arizona State winning these games. I'm going to try and come up with some like kind of clever stuff. So instead of saying like it's 10-1 odds, it would be like it's the odds of getting to the center of a Tootsie Pop in 300 licks or less. I don't know. Just kind of outrageous, kind of funny stuff to kind of sit and think about. We're going to start with Colorado. Okay. Colorado's bad. In case you do not know anything about what's it called, Pac-12 football this year, the Colorado Buffaloes are a very, very bad team this year, and it's saying something that I'm looking at this game, and I still consider this a pretty not easy win, but essentially an easy win for Arizona State. Colorado's 1-6 on the year. They probably should be winless, but they got an overtime victory against Cal, not this past weekend, but the weekend previously, to get them their only conference win and their only win of the 2022 season. And it very well could be their only win entirely this year. Like, this is not a good team. They've had 3 different quarterbacks come in. All of them have been incredibly underwhelming, to put it politely. They have just 11 offensive touchdowns in 7 games this year. They're legitimately just unable to put points up on the board. They've only crossed 20 points once this year, or twice, I should say. They've scored 20 points twice this year. Never more than 20 points, though. They have been held in single digits twice. This is not a good team. Now, with that being said, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just because like there's not a lot to do in Boulder, but their fans actually do a pretty good job coming out and showing out for their football team, which is something I wish Arizona State fans would do a little bit better, but we're not here to talk about that right now. We're looking at Colorado and a surprisingly decent home field advantage. But at the same time, I mean, there's just nothing to write home about with this team, man. They're not putting up points. They're giving up points in the meantime. They don't put themselves in position ever to do anything. They have 6 sacks on the year. They have 2 interceptions on the year. So the defense isn't giving them opportunities either. There's really nothing here for Arizona State fans to be concerned about, other than the fact that Arizona State just doesn't feel like they're guaranteed to win the rest of the year. That being said, I do look at this game. I still see a win. I'm still pretty confident about a win. But I'll tell you, it's not because I'm confident in the Sun Devils. It's because I'm confident in how bad Colorado is. So, what are my odds for Arizona State to win this game? I would say the odds for Arizona State to win this game are about as good of odds as DeAndre Hopkins to get the target for a crucial third or fourth down conversion when the Arizona Cardinals need him most. In other words, you can feel pretty likely that it's going to happen unless something crazy ends up going on. So who knows? Maybe Rondale Moore is just sneaking out of the flat and he's just wide open underneath, and Kyler just can't help but throw it to him. You know, maybe Colorado got like some miracle pick six, and now we have to have a conversation about that. That's kind of the way I see this. You know as well as I do that ball's going to DeAndre Hopkins just as much as you know as well as I do Arizona State's going to win this game. There's a chance they don't, just like there's a chance that Hopkins doesn't get that target. But I think we all know that that target's going to Nuke, and I think we all know that this win is going to be for Arizona State. Hop right back into this conversation. We got 4 more games to take a look at. But first, I want to talk to you about our friends over at LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire feels like a high-stakes wager for your business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Again, LinkedIn is the best place to go. When you're talking about building up your personal business, you want to be able to have everything at the palm of your hands in order to get the best candidates. LinkedIn is just how you do that. And it's so simple to create a job. Once you do that, add the purple hashtag hiring framed to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. And there's never been a more important time to have the right team than as the end of the year is coming up. It's why small businesses like LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, of course, will apply. Thank you guys, as always, for making us your first listen of the day. Obviously, you got to make sure that you're checking out the Locked On Sports Today podcast as well. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and beyond the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. The next game that we got coming up, 2 games here. We're back at home after a 2-week road tour, and it will have been almost a full month since we have gotten a home game because the Washington game happened right before a bye week for Arizona State. So November 5th now. As of now, it is the number 12 UCLA Bruins. There's a chance that they're ranked higher or they're ranked lower. Regardless, you should be pretty confident that this is going to end up being a ranked UCLA team that ends up coming to town to play this game. UCLA is a very, very, very good team. They looked like the front runners for the Pac-12 before they ran into Oregon, and Oregon does what Oregon always does and just asserts itself as the best team in the conference. But UCLA is such a great team, top to bottom. There's so much talent here. There's so much potential to be great. In fact, do me a favor. You guys should go and check out this week's Locked On Pac-12 that I hopped on with Spencer McLaughlin to talk about how UCLA and 2 other teams in the Pac-12 are still in the hunt for a playoff spot. You guys should go check that out. But looking at UCLA, it's Dorian Thompson-Robinson's show. The dude is not a Heisman candidate, but he's got a pretty gosh darn good resume. He has 21 total touchdowns on the year. He's only thrown 3 interceptions. He's only been sacked 6 times. Zach Charbonnet, for my money's worth, is the best running back in college football. Maybe that's a little bit of Pac-12 bias, but Zach Charbonnet is just a complete, absolute animal of a running back, and nobody wants to talk about him, and it's frustrating. But Zach Charbonnet is the man, the myth, the legend when it comes to talking about UCLA. As long as those two are on offense, I don't feel confident, in Arizona State being able to put up enough points to just outright win any game against UCLA. The bright side is their defense has not been overly great. In their 7 games, 4 of them they've allowed In their 7 games, 4 games they've allowed 30 or more points. One of those games was to South Alabama. Now, granted, that's way back in week 3 of the season, but worth noting. The defense may not be spectacular. They've still got some pretty good players out there, like Laiati Latu has been pretty good for them. They're generating a pretty good amount of turnovers, though. They got 7 picks this year. And it's a team that is going to capitalize on mistakes you make. And Arizona State makes a lot of mistakes. So when I'm looking at this game, I feel pretty confident that UCLA is going to roll Arizona State. This game could be on the moon. It could be in Tempe like it is. Or God forbid, it could be in Pasadena. But even at home for Arizona State, I don't like your odds in this game. In fact, the odds I would give you are about as good of odds as, what's something that's pretty automatic? As good of odds as, and I didn't write anything down. I truly wanted this to be like kind of special off the top of my head. I feel UCLA is going to win this game pretty good, right? There's just not a lot here that would show me that ASU is in competition against UCLA. UCLA would have to drop another game this week and in convincing fashion. And then ASU would have to beat Colorado in convincing fashion for me to believe that they've got a real shot here. But they're playing Stanford this week. They're at home against the Cardinal. And sure, the Cardinal are coming off a win against, lo and behold, Arizona State, but Cardinal aren't that great. So how good do I feel about this? I feel as good about UCLA winning as I feel about Trevor Lawrence being the number 1 overall pick when he was officially draft eligible. It was a slam dunk. It always was. It always will be. We all knew Trevor Lawrence was going to be a number 1 pick when he was a recruit. But by the time it was his junior year at Clemson, everyone knew it was going to take something massive to take him out of the number 1 pick. And there was some good competition. Trey Lance and Zach Wilson go picks 3 and picks 2 respectively right behind him. It was a quarterback-heavy class, but Lawrence was always the number 1 pick. UCLA was always going to win this game. Next game we got. Back on the road, going to Pullman, Washington to play the Wazoo Cougars. Now, this was initially a game that I looked at and I was like, that's a loss. And now I look at it and I'm like, maybe not. And now I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I really don't know. Wazoo has definitely underachieved this year. I think that they were supposed to be a much better team than they actually are. They're 4-3 on the year. They're 7th in the conference, middle of the pack. Cameron Ward has been good. He has been incredibly frustratingly inconsistent, though, for the Cougs. And with the way Arizona State is able to generate turnovers, I kind of like Arizona State to get extra opportunities in this game to put up points on a defense that is hit and miss. I feel like there's times where they look great, like when they played Colorado State and Cal and gave up 16 combined points. But then I see games against like Oregon where Oregon just completely stormed back in the 4th quarter In fact, I'm pretty sure Oregon had scored 28 points in the fourth quarter of that game. I'm double checking right now, but it was 29. They had scored 29 not unanswered, excuse me. They had scored 29 points in the fourth quarter in order to get back in that game. So this defense isn't one that I believe can completely eliminate what Arizona State wants to do, but I also said that about Stanford. So when I look at this game, look, there's a chance, okay? Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. Yes, there's a chance because Cameron Ward turns the ball over a lot and Arizona State gets a lot of turnovers. But they're a better team and they're at home. I like Wazoo in this game, but I also don't necessarily count out Arizona State right now. Looking at this game, knowing that there's still 2 more football games to be played beforehand, the odds I'm going to give it, I think that ASU's chances of winning in Pullman are as good as, man, this is fun, but it's also kind of stressful. This feels as good of odds for Arizona State to go to Pullman and beat Wazoo as Cameron Ward is to throw an interception in this game. Well, no, let me flip it. Wazoo has as good a chance to win this game as Cameron Ward does to throw an interception in this game. So it's very, very likely that Wazoo is going to win this game. But there is that chance that maybe ASU can somehow pull off a clean game, just like maybe Cameron Ward can have a clean game instead of the typical gunslinger mentality that he has, where he's had 2 games this year without interceptions out of 7. So, odds are he's going to throw a pick, but maybe he has a clean game. Odds are Wazoo's going to win this game, but who knows? Maybe Arizona State can go in and pull off a surprise. All right. One last break from us here before we close out the show with the final 2 games of the season, which includes the most important game of the season for us. But first, I want to talk to you about another one of our good friends here, Sweatblock. Guys, I can tell you, I'll flat out just put myself on the spotlight here. I have bad sweating issues at times. I have pitted out before and just sweat right through my shirts. And you guys know that in Arizona, that can be the absolute worst thing in the world. And it happens seemingly every single day. But thankfully, Sweatblock has come around, created by a doctor who had their own issues with pitting out and with sweating. Doctor created, doctor recommended. If you or someone you know is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, tell them to try Sweatblock. If they use the promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com, they can also get 20% off of their order. And I'm telling you guys, it truly is a game-changing kind of product. Give Sweatblock a try. Go to sweatblock.com, use the promo code LOCKEDON, get 20% off your order, and stop worrying about pitting through your shirts. Guys, again, make sure that you check out Locked On Sports today. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and of course, the take of the day. Available on Odyssey, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. 2 more games to look at here. The first one is the final home game for Arizona State. This will be against the Oregon State Beavers. That's a good football team. It's so weird, actually, to think about how good Oregon State has become the last few years. Maybe just the last 2, particularly. But Oregon State is definitely a trendy team in the Pac-12 right now. And again, at 6-2, they've got an offense that knows how to put up some points. So when Chance Nolan went down, Ben Goldbranson, I believe is how you say it. I'm like enunciating it. Has stepped in and has been pretty dang solid. Their run game, though, is ridiculous. They got 21 rushing touchdowns. They've got a ridiculous 7 players that have scored a touchdown, including one of God's greatest gifts to college football, Jack Coletto, scoring 6. This is a team that is just built to win Pac-12 football in the most unconventional ways possible. Oregon State does that. Their defense is more opportunistic than you would think. They've got 10 interceptions this year, and they've recovered 4 fumbles. This is definitely one of those, like, don't sleep on them or they're going to make you regret it kind of defenses. They've got only 4 guys have interceptions this year, but guess what? All of them have at least 2 interceptions. They've got playmakers on defense. They make the most out of their opportunities whenever they're given a chance to score points. But yeah, this is kind of the same thing as the UCLA game, where I don't know that I care where the game's being played because I just feel so good about Oregon State winning this game. Oregon State is just simply leaps and miles better than Arizona State is right now. And I look at their program, and it's hard for me to see any chance that Arizona State wins this game. So the lazy little comparison here, and I hate to do this. What are the odds that Arizona State wins this game? The odds that Arizona State wins this game against Oregon State is about as good as their odds of going to Corvallis and winning. I'm saying it's a death sentence because it just feels like Arizona State just can't win when they go to Corvallis. In fact, that's something I would love to take a look at. But yeah, they're just simply leaps and bounds, head and shoulders better than Arizona State. It is what it is. The only redeemable aspect of this game is that they have to come to you. They have to come down to Tempe to play this game. And who knows, maybe you're feeling a little froggy from last year's loss in Corvallis that you think you can take them this year and just, kind of split the series for the 2 years. But I'm not feeling overly confident about it. I don't make myself feel bad about it either. The final game, Arizona State travels down south to play that school, U of A. Final game of the year, as always, the duel in the desert, whatever you want to call it. This is not the U of A that we have become accustomed to the last 5 years. This is a good U of A football team. This team has offensive firepower. That's not something that I feel we've seen from not Arizona State, from U of A in quite some time. These guys, they put up points. And it's because of Jaden DeLora. Jaden DeLora tore up Arizona State last year in Tempe when he was with Wazoo. Now he's down south. He's still just doing nothing but scoring touchdowns. He's got 19 touchdown passes through the air. He does have 7 interceptions, though. He does turn the ball over a lot. So that's something that we should keep in our back pocket. But Jaden DeLora is still just such a game-changing player that U of A hasn't had. And you can't discount that going into this game. Plus, U of A has lost 5 straight to Arizona State, including the infamous 70-7 game. Thing that's right behind me there. If I can coordinate my hands. Yeah. 70-7. They don't run the ball with one guy in particular. They've got 3 guys they spread it out to, but they throw the ball all friggin' day. And Jacob Cowing and Dorian Singer are good receivers. This is going to be a shootout in a best-case scenario for Arizona State. I just don't see any way that you can stop U of A from putting up points. So it's going to be up to you to find a way to go stride for stride. Now, for U of A this year, of their 4 losses, 39 points was the lowest output. That was against an SEC school, too. Cal dropped 49 on them. Meanwhile, they also have no issue putting up points because their best win of the year came against Colorado, and they dropped 43 on them. They can put up points, but they also give up points. This game is going to come down to, in my opinion, whoever ends up being the starting quarterback for Arizona State. But even with that in mind, I look at this game. Look, maybe it's just because I just can't stand U of A. Maybe it's because I know what is important to Arizona State. And knowing that as bad as this season is, there's one thing that I feel confident in. And that's that this team is not going to give up. They're going to go into this game and they're going to win it. I don't know. 6 in a row. I feel it. I would be not surprised. I'd be incredibly disappointed if they didn't get it for more than one reason. But I still feel confident about this being a win for Arizona State. What are the odds of it? I don't want to be too open and shut on it because U of A has a much better chance in this game than they have had in recent years. So the odds that I'm giving it, what would be the odds? I don't know. Because I so badly want to say something just like Skip Bayless trashes LeBron's legacy or something, but that's a guarantee. And Arizona State's not guaranteed to win this game. This is just not a team that's guaranteed to win any games at this point. But, man, what are the odds Arizona State wins this game? Arizona State's odds of winning this game are as good as the odds of Marvel's next movie to be great. A lot of Marvel movies are really, really good. The last few Marvel movies have been kind of letdowns. However, the next Marvel movie coming out is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, where we're going to celebrate the life and the legacy of Chadwick Boseman and his character T'Challa. So even though Marvel's kind of been in the stinker lately with their last couple movies, say what you will, I liked Love and Thunder, didn't care for Multiverse of Madness. But there's a lot of hype for Wakanda Forever to end up redeeming what has been a down year for Marvel. If they pull that off, this kind of fixes the year for them, right? You can kind of look past the okay movies that Marvel put out this year because they nailed it with the one that mattered. Arizona State. You can kind of look past a down year because you beat the team down south. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And I feel pretty good about that. Feel pretty good about Wakanda Forever being good, and I feel pretty good about Arizona State winning the game down south, the duel in the desert. Bring it on. That's it for this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Again, you guys are the best. Remember, check the podcast out wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube if you want to check us out on a visual platform. Like and subscribe, though, wherever you do get your podcasts, and turn on notifications so you get an update when we post new content, which is Monday through Friday. Stay in touch with that content. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. You can find me at Richie Bradshaw36. You can find the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. By the way, tomorrow will be our Q&A mailbag. We haven't had one in a couple weeks. Make sure that you drop your questions. You can submit them on YouTube, or you can tweet them at me or the podcast. Send me your question and get it answered. But until next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.